The Life of Escanor, the Lion's Sin of Pride, the Seven Deadly Sins. Escanor was the Lion's Sin of Pride of the Seven Deadly Sins, the former second prince of the Kingdom of Castellio, and the man known throughout the Kingdom of Leonis as the strongest holy knight. His sacred treasure was the divine axe Rhitta, and his inherent power was called Sunshine, which made him renowned for gaining immense power during the day and gradually becoming weaker with the setting of the sun, leaving him frail and submissive at night. Welcome to the Amagi. In today's video, we're going over the life of Escanor. We're coming up on 1 million subscribers, and we'd love to hit it before the end of the summer, so if you enjoyed the video, please check if you're subscribed, because YouTube sometimes unsubscribes people from channels, so if you think you're subscribed, you might not be. The Amagi's reach stretches beyond just this channel, so if you're a fan of us, please consider subscribing to our other channels and following us on all of our social media accounts. Help us reach our goal of passing 100k followers on all of our accounts by the end of the year. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Background. Escanor was born 40 years ago, the prince of the Kingdom of Castellio. When he was a child, his older brother Damon used to pick on him, until one day his power awakened, and he accidentally broke his brother's arm. His parents disowned him because of what happened and his strange unexplained appearance, and soon the kingdom's forces mobilized to kill him. He was rescued by a kind woman named Rosa, who hid him in a barrel and set him adrift at sea. He survived, but wherever he went, people called him a monster even when he helped them. At some point, Escanor returned to Castellio in search of Rosa, only to find the kingdom in ruins, and Rosa nowhere to be found. 15 years ago. One day, Escanor was causing problems in Leonis after getting rid of a monster that caused riots in town. There, Escanor meets Merlin and Meliodas, who asked him to join their knightly order. Although the two were forced to restrain him by order of the king to stop his havoc. After being taken prisoner to the castle of Leonis, Escanor was accused by the kingdom of terrorizing and destroying many villages and towns, gravely injuring the holy knights who tried to restrain him, and for disrespecting the king as well. Labeling him as the sin of pride, Escanor is then sentenced to flogging, followed by public hanging. Escanor, already in his knight form, tried to explain what really happened, but having no evidence, he decides to accept the punishment. However, Meliodas intervenes at the last moment, stating that he would take care of him. That night, Meliodas takes Escanor with his companions as the 7th and last member of the Seven Deadly Sins. Despite being scared by his new companions, they receive him with open arms. After everyone drinks all night, Escanor decides to leave after saying he would go to the bathroom. While reciting a poem, he's surprised by Merlin, who asks him why he's leaving. Escanor says he can't stay because his curse, that prevents him from controlling his actions during the day, ends up causing him to harm them. Merlin says that he's actually an interesting man, causing Escanor to be ashamed. Merlin tells him to join them then, and they can solve his problems using his incredible power. Escanor mentions how much she looks like Rosa because of the good things she says about his curse and the lonely eyes she has, but that he doesn't deserve to be with her after killing her friends. She then sends his soul to the capital of the dead, without Escanor knowing where it really is. Escanor then meets Rosa there. He initially refuses to see her from the front for being disappointed in himself, but rectifying himself, Escanor thanks Rosa for saving him and promises to fully live the life she saved, regardless of what tragedy falls on him or how lonely he becomes. Rosa then assures him that there's nothing to be ashamed of, as he will no longer be alone. The two remain talking for a while before Escanor returns to the living world, where his body is loaded back by Meliodas. 12 years ago. With a clan of vampires having taken over the Kingdom of Edinburgh and threatening the Kingdom of Leonis and all of Britannia with impending war, the Seven Deadly Sins, including Escanor, were deployed to deal with them and recapture Edinburgh Castle. When the mission starts, Escanor is confronted by the vampire king Israf, who demands to know his reason for coming to the castle. He then attacks the Sin of Pride with telekinesis-controlled debris, which Escanor evades with ease. Their fight continues until dawn, when suddenly the Sin stops dodging and faces Israf. He easily lifts his sacred treasure, which he had been previously unable to move, and orders the Vampire King to fight at full power. He then demands an apology from him for being born into his world. He then used his sacred treasure to easily cleave the Vampire King's torso, which quickly regenerated, but having come into contact with Escanor's axe, began to burn him. After destroying the castle and killing Israf, Escanor was approached by Merlin, who he was pleased to see. As she distracted him, he was hit by Gother's blackout arrow, which Merlin had amplified to knock him unconscious until his power depleted. He was then brought home by Merlin. Back at the castle, Escanor was scolding himself for losing control and that his poems are not worthy of Merlin's ears. Merlin then entered his chamber and asked if she could hear his poem. 10 years ago. Escanor, along with the rest of the Seven Deadly Sins, was summoned to a castle to meet the great Holy Knight Zarathus. After they found him dead there, all of them were ambushed by the Holy Knights. When Meliodas ordered everyone to disperse and regroup later, Escanor obeyed and went into hiding, forming a secret bar hidden deep within the mountains, and even establishing himself as the owner and master of the bar. It's unknown how successful Escanor's secret bar was, but it was seen to have been well stocked and maintained. Introduction Arc. Escanor's wanted poster displayed on a board in the Boar Hat. Raven's Arc. Escanor is first introduced into the main story when, as the owner of the bar, My Sweet Gluttony, with his Rhitta embedded on the wall, he's stumbled upon by a wounded Jericho carrying Elaine and Bon, who had fled from the deadly pursuit of Galland and Meliscula. Welcoming them, Escanor asks who they are, and seemingly recognizes Bon of the three, asking Jericho if she's a holy knight. However, Jericho informs him that the Seven Deadly Sins are now considered heroes, not villains, much to his relief. He then asks Bon about Merlin, which the bandit ensures him she's safe with Meliodas before asking him to hide them, which Escanor gracefully obliges to by hiding them in a cooler behind him. With the Ten Commandments arriving now at the scene, a terrified Escanor is sniffed out by Galland, who gets distracted by the booze and immediately commences drinking along Meliscula. Admiring how the booze has gotten better over the course of 3,000 years, Escanor explains its content, which Meliscula credits him for knowing much about. Escanor asks who they are, and the two respond that they're the 10 Commandments of the Demon King. Surprised, Escanor is challenged to a Gallant game, with each of them delivering a blow to each other, and the first one to die loses. Despite Jericho and Bon's advice, a terrified Escanor accepts the game and is patted in the back by Galland, but the force Galland used caused the secret of sin to pass out. Before they noticed, morning had already arose, and as Galland attempted to carry the Rhitta, Escanor snatched it from his hand and told him that mere demons cannot hope to wield this axe. A surprised Galland wonders whether he's a human or not, and Escanor responds that he is indeed human, but he's the very pinnacle of the human species, introducing himself as the Lion's Sin of Pride, Escanor of the Seven Deadly Sins. With Galland surprised of Escanor's audacity, to demonstrate his strength, Escanor slices the commandment in half with a mere swing of his axe. However, just as Meliscula remarked, Galland was far from defeated as he casually reattached himself, which Escanor noted him for. If he would be done in so easily, it would not be very fun. Escanor then proceeds to provoke Galland by telling him to continue their game and hit him, which Galland responds to by activating his critical over, an ability to maximize his physical strength, which shocked Escanor greatly. Galland then swings his spear and delivers a land-shattering blow to Escanor's shoulder, in hopes of defeating the Lion's Sin, but to no avail, as the commandment's most powerful attack only barely bruised the brute. Escanor shows his disappointment, saying that it's now his turn, releasing an intense aura of supremacy, so great that Galland broke his own oath and subliminally tried to escape, but was petrified due to breaking his oath, while Escanor proceeds to sigh in disappointment. After musing about the effect of Galland's commandment, Escanor tells Meliscula that she can either run or stay and die. Meliscula sarcastically thanks him for the offer and freeing her from Galland, and uses her Anton no Mayu to trap Escanor and proceeds to remove and eat his soul. However, Escanor's soul contains too much power for her to handle, escapes from her mouth, and destroys her cocoon. As Meliscula screams in agony as she's consumed by flames, Escanor answers her question of what his power is, replying sunshine. After defeating them, he tells Bon that he needs to speak to him on important business and orders him to stay there and wait for him as it was almost noon. Bon agrees and waits for the man, who returns at night in his night form. Much to Jericho's dismay, Escanor asks Bon how the rest of the group are doing, and Bon tells him that he's left them for a while, but knows they are on the move. The Lion's Sin then tells him that he's planning on returning to the group, but he cannot do so before finishing one last job as the barkeep of his bar, asking Bon to help him with it. It was then that King showed up. Great Fight Festival Arc. Escanor is later seen as part of the Great Fight Festival, where Gowther arrives and lands on top of him. He politely asks him to get off his back, and as Gowther recognizes, Escanor notices his glasses are broken and panics. He is then instantly impaled by a vine from Gloxinia, but restored right away. After being forced to participate in the fight and being paired with Hawk, a worried Escanor is then shocked to see a talking pig behind him. When both of them go against Gowther and Jericho, Escanor gets scared when Gowther said he'll kill them both and win the tournament to gain a heart and feel remorse for their deaths. Escanor tries to convince Gloxinia and Droll to let him forfeit the battle or at least change the rules, so he won't have to fight Gowther as he's a precious friend. As his request is denied, Gowther goes with all his strength against him while taking down Jericho and Hawk. Gowther uses Jack and Nightmare Teller against him, and Escanor starts remembering his past with his family and how he was tormented after breaking his brother's arm, the reject from his mother, and even how they tried to kill him, and how a mysterious woman helps him to escape. For a brief moment, he also remembered the time when he met Merlin and Meliodas, and the feelings that started growing for her. This moment turns into a nightmare when Merlin says to him that she'll never be with a man with no future, as his curse will consume his body to nothing. Gowther, believing he had already put Escanor in an eternal darkness of despair, is shocked to hear and see Escanor is unconscious, but even more when Escanor pseudo-transforms into his more powerful form thanks to his ability. Escanor says that that nightmare was not despairing, but hope for him as Merlin was always a ray of light in his path. With his strength back, Escanor states he will make him pay for playing with the hearts of others. Escanor delivers a simple blow to Gowther to take his glasses, causing Gowther to see all blurry. Escanor starts evading Gowther's Gatling Jack's erratic attacks and calls for his sacred treasure. Escanor and Gowther prepare for their last attack, but the truth was, Escanor was aiming and attacking Droll and Gloxinia. Unfortunately, Escanor collapses thanks to Gowther's attack and turns back to his weak form. When Escanor regains consciousness, Gowther holds him to see how he was. Escanor tells him that even though he doesn't have a heart, he's still one of his precious comrades, and that's why he would not let go of the 10 Commandments for playing with the heart of his friends, stating otherwise that Gowther actually has a heart. Escanor, along with everyone, is teleported far away by Gilfrost into safety, and he watches the battle of his captain against the Commandments through a crystal ball in shock. Defensive battle for Leonis arc. 1 month after Meliodas' death, Escanor shows up during the 10 Commandments siege on Leonis to aid his fellow deadly sins and the other holy knights who are paralyzed by Estarosa's commandment. Estarosa, feeling superior because of his commandment, notices that Escanor is not affected by it and asks the sin for the reason why. Escanor replies that he's not able to feel hatred against those beneath him, merely pity. At the beginning of the fight, Estarosa appears to have the advantage, tossing Escanor around, but Escanor quickly turns the tables as the sun continues to rise towards noon. Estarosa shows that he's able to use full counter on physical attacks, mildly surprising the Sin. Seeing how physical attacks would not be the best option, Escanor decides to use a magical attack. He then produces a miniature sun in his hand. As his allies are having problems with the heat emitted from the sphere, Escanor decides to translate the fight to another location. He then pushes the sphere, Cruel Sun, against Estarosa, sending him flying towards a nearby lake. As the commandment falls into the water, Escanor makes the sun sphere explode, releasing so much heat that the lake completely evaporates in the process. Estarosa admits he would have been in trouble if he released his darkness a second earlier. Escanor prepares another Cruel Sun, but Estarosa quickly hinders his plan, using his dark powers to cover the sun. Nonetheless, Escanor decides to attack anyways with Rhitta. Estarosa uses full counter again, reflecting all of Escanor's power, greatly damaging him. As he seals Escanor's magic, the commandment declares his victory, having the upper hand both physically and magically. But as noon comes closer and closer, Escanor's power level rises yet again, overcoming all impediments set by Estarosa, who's greatly shocked by Escanor's suddenly increased power. Escanor eventually launches another Cruel Sun towards Estarosa. Zeldris, who had been watching the fight, tries to pull his brother away, but is also blown away by the force of the attack. Escanor then proceeds to return to Leonis Castle in order to support his comrades. He arrives at night when the battle is already over. There, he finally reunites with Merlin and is surprised to discover that Meliodas is alive, tending Merlin to reveal him the curse that the Demon King put on Meliodas, reviving him every time he dies in exchange for his emotions being consumed by his old evil self. Upon hearing that, Escanor is shown to be discouraged. Memories of the Holy War arc. The day after the defeat of the Commandments, Merlin explains to Escanor how she took care of rebuilding all the damage in the kingdom and castle while he gives her a bath. There, Meliodas has a friendly moment with Mon, tending Escanor to recite a poem that Meliodas qualifies with an 8. Corand arc. When Diane and King arrive at Leonis, finally reuniting the 7 deadly sins, Escanor warmly welcomes them back. After Bartra shows Gowther's heart, he then runs away. Escanor accompanies the other sins to chase him. Sometime later, Escanor is in a tavern with King and Gowther. A drunk King begins to discuss with Gowther about his past doings and falls asleep. Gowther feels sorry for all the stuff he did to King in the past, but Escanor comforts him, saying that King is a kind person. Escanor hears Gowther's desire of being a better person and says to him that he likes Gowther. When the two take the drunk ferry to go back home, King accidentally knocks Escanor's glasses off, making him violently grow larger and pissed off of having to take care of King. Gowther quickly gets his glasses and puts them back on Escanor's face, causing him to shrink back. Escanor thanks Gowther, saying things would have gone bad if the magic glasses given to him by Merlin would break. Later, the Sins had a reunion party. While everyone's drinking, Escanor recites poems. Escanor gets worried about Merlin looking at her empty chair and asks if he can go check on her. But at that moment, Merlin arrives. Escanor proposes another toast. With all the Sins in the room, they toast to their reunion. Then Diane asks Gowther how his creator ended the Holy War, with Meliodas and Merlin questioning that. Escanor says that according to the passed down legend, supposedly the goddess clan sacrificed themselves to seal the demon clan and end the war. However, Gowther couldn't give a response. Before going to her room, Merlin reestablishes the fact that Zeldris is still alive. Meliodas prioritizes freeing the people of Leonis and liberating Camelot first before fighting Zeldris. When Merlin walks off and enters a room, she almost collapses and is caught by the captain. Meliodas then asks if Zeldris did something to her. However, she tries to avoid answering it. He sets her on the bed and tells her he knows that she's trying to protect Arthur. Escanor, who went to check on Merlin, overhears her with a sad expression when she asks Meliodas to help because Arthur is her hope. Later, an anxious Escanor is by Merlin's bedside. Elizabeth can finally make Merlin better. Merlin thanks Escanor for noticing that she was showing symptoms of a curse. Escanor humbly says it was nothing, as he thinks of Merlin's earlier words. In the way to Corand, after Elizabeth collapses, Meliodas tells everyone that Elizabeth is going to die in 3 days. Everyone becomes appalled, and Diane asks if he's joking. Meliodas decides to tell everyone about how he and Elizabeth were cursed by their parents. When the Sins arrive at Corand, Zeldris himself welcomes them. Meliodas rushes to attack him, but all was an illusion done by Meliscula, with the objective of trapping Meliodas inside her Antanomayu. Meliscula summons an army of skeletons to fight the rest. Seeing this isn't enough, she enhances them with Shura no Onshu. Escanor takes off his glasses to fight, easily destroying all of his enemies. Later, he tries to stop a possessed Diane. When Elizabeth arrives, having regained all her memories of her past life and reveals her past with Merlin, Escanor asks to know about that history, to which Merlin tells him to stay out of that matter. During the fight, Meliodas finally breaks out of Meliscula's cocoon, but in a berserk state, showing his progressive regression to his old self. Meliscula calls this form Assault Mode, and states that they used to fear it when Meliodas was the leader of the 10 Commandments. Escanor quickly gets in action and calls for a sacred treasure and asks Merlin to encase both of them inside a perfect cube. A fierce battle between the two starts. Escanor seems to have the odds against him in the battle at first, as Meliodas avoids all of his strikes, and having to block the incoming attacks of the captain as well. After receiving a severe wound in the abdomen, Escanor falls down. As high noon gets closer and closer, his power level raises once more, growing larger with the wound closing by itself. Escanor recommences the fight with a powerful axe strike, which results are ineffective. Meliodas delivers a single punch right to Escanor's chest, making him fall down on his knees. Meliodas then puts his foot on Escanor's head and mocks him. Escanor charges once again, striking with his weapon and using magic skills to no avail. Meliodas manages to make Escanor drop Rhitta. Meliodas takes the chance to slice open Escanor's stomach, but is stopped due to the blade getting stuck in Escanor's flesh. Escanor takes and throws Lost Fane away, then delivers a punch to Meliodas' face, with little effect. Meliodas returns the blow, making Escanor bounce around the perfect cube and falling to the ground yet again. Escanor is praised by Meliodas, who calls him an impressive human. As Meliodas picks up his sword, high noon comes. At this point, Escanor is able to reach the peak of his power, entering into the One State, the invincible incarnation of power, according to Merlin. Meliodas shrouds himself in darkness and slashes Escanor multiple times with Kamishigiri, but Escanor replies that he felt nothing but an itch. Meliodas attacks Escanor once again. Escanor then uses Seika on Escanor, giving Meliodas a large cut across his chest with just his bare hand, almost splitting him in half. Meliodas, greatly damaged and barely standing, insults Escanor, but rapidly falls unconscious. Escanor claims victory, asking Meliodas how it feels for a demon god to be looked down upon a human. Merlin then dispels Perfect Cube and uses her telekinesis to carry an unconscious Meliodas back to the boar hat. On the way, Escanor falls unconscious. Merlin explains that due to sunshine being such a powerful magic, Escanor exerted himself for suddenly releasing too much power in the One form after not doing so for several long years. In the boar hat, Escanor remains unconscious even with the help of Elizabeth's magic. Prelude to the new Holy War arc. When Chandler appears to face the Sins, an incapacitated Merlin tries to awaken Escanor, but due to the artificial night that Chandler had created, Escanor returns to his weak form. Merlin tries to wake him up, but he remains unconscious. He later bared witness towards Merlin's true childlike form, as well as her negotiating with Zeldris. He was shocked to learn that Merlin possesses the blessings of the Supreme Deity and the Demon King. After forming an alliance with the Goddess clan, Escanor and Hawk are out getting supplies for Gowther. He then asks Hawk for advice in gaining Merlin's affection, due to him believing her relationship with Arthur Pendragon to be romantic. Hawk tells him to merely tell her how he feels himself, but he doesn't have the confidence to do so. Just then, they're confronted by Ludociel while possessing Margaret Leonis, who proceeds to question where Escanor got his powers from. After Escanor calls his power a curse, Ludociel furiously demands he gives back the magic and attacks him, but Escanor easily counters. Ludociel reveals Escanor's magic, Sunshine, belonged to his brother Mael, stating a grace given by the supreme deity would kill an ordinary human in an instant. Escanor refuses his claim, stating Sunshine is his magic and has had it since he was born, and it's proof of his might as the strongest. Eventually, the two reach a mutual agreement. He later regroups back with the other sins as Merlin states of her intentions of rescuing Arthur and those in Camelot. When she mentions going alone to save him, Escanor mentions how against he is with it, which angers her, causing him to back down. He later meets Arthur for the first time after Merlin rescues him while expressing some jealousy over Merlin caring for him so much. At that moment, however, Escanor and everyone stares in shock as Arthur, possessed by Cusack, stabs himself in the heart. After Merlin and Elizabeth fail to save Arthur, Escanor prepares to knock on her door in an effort to cheer Merlin up. After practicing what to say to help her, he overhears Elizabeth mention how Arthur is to Merlin as Meliodas is to her. Disheartened, Escanor leaves without saying a word. New Holy War Arc. He later assists Merlin and Elizabeth to the meeting to prepare for the Holy War, having an encounter with Sariel and Tarmiel when they recognize Mael's grace on him. Escanor is assigned to the assault force with Merlin and Ludociel to directly attack Camelot. As the Sins prepare for the Holy War, Escanor interrupts King's proposal to Diane and reprimands them for being romantic as they are about to start the war against the demons. After being deceived by Gother's new voice mimicry, Escanor briefly coughs up blood and a worried look. After leaving Leonis, Escanor, along with Merlin, Ludociel, Gilthunder, and Hendrickson, teleport to Camelot. Upon arriving at Camelot, Escanor declares that it's time to put an end to that holy war. The assault force discovers the castle Camelot covered with an enormous field of darkness, product of Meliodas absorbing the commandments. Ludociel invokes his sanctuary, creating an arc barrier around him, Merlin, Escanor, Hendrickson, and Gilthunder, being able to enter the field of darkness thanks to Merlin's commandment that wants to enter and join the others. Ludociel declares that once inside, they cannot leave until they kill the creator of the dark field, Meliodas. However, Merlin declares that there's another way, to return Meliodas to normality. Upon entering where the cocoon of Meliodas is found, the group is received by Zeldris, Cusack, and Chandler. Escanor personally confronts Chandler. When the battle begins, Escanor attacks Meliodas' cocoon with a heat blast, being impressed that this one was able to resist his attack. After Merlin attacks the three demons with her double impact, Escanor moves to protect her of the assault of Chandler and Cusack, but is thrown back by the two demons' combined attack. However, Merlin is able to repel them with the second stage of her spell. When Zeldris assumes the position that releases the original magical power, Escanor says that it's better that it's not just a bluff. Zeldris then proceeds to use his original power, Ominous Nebula, creating an incredible force of attraction, which draws the assault force towards him. Zeldris claims that they must get out of their way, releasing an attack that leaves Ludociel, Escanor, Hendrickson, and Gilthunder wounded against the wall. Zeldris creates another force of attraction, but Escanor and Ludociel manage to hold on to the floor while Hendrickson and Gilthunder are kept away in safety by Merlin's teleportation. Ludociel is carried away to attack Zeldris, however is only repelled and embedded against the wall as last time. After being attracted again, Ludociel clings to Escanor to sustain himself. Escanor gets upset, asking him to keep distance, to which Ludociel says that he didn't intend to fall on his back, proceeding to an argument between the two. Ludociel asks Escanor to help him, surprising him when he refuses, claiming that nobody gives him orders. Ludociel shows himself in sign by claiming that a miserable human must obey him as the greatest being on Earth, to which Escanor replies that he doesn't care. When Ludociel is finally caught in the power of Zeldris, Merlin asks Escanor to give him a hand, and he immediately catches Ludociel. He asks if he didn't follow orders, to which Escanor tells him that Merlin's orders are another story. When Escanor asks him if he has any plans, threatening to send him flying if it's not. Ludociel uses his ruby shine to blind Zeldris with a bright light, while Escanor causes a huge explosion with his cruel sun to camouflage their presences. Convinced that Zeldris will not be able to counterattack without being able to anticipate them in the same way as full counter, Ludociel and Escanor launch themselves on him, but to his surprise, both are rejected in the same way once again. There, Merlin notices how the power and speed of the vacuum created by Zeldris increases, attracting her with such speed that it prevents her from teleporting in time to evade the blow of Zeldris. However, Escanor shields Merlin with his body, taking almost all the attack, saying that he was powerless against his own heart. When Merlin loses consciousness by the blow, Escanor releases his crazy prominence in his anger. After Ludociel and Gilthunder are obliterated by Zeldris, they declare that Escanor is the last one to defeat. Escanor asks Merlin to hold on for a minute, and she manages to use her teleport to keep safe of the vacuum. Escanor, reaching the power of the One, manages to advance without being absorbed by the ominous nebula. Seeing this, Zeldris asks if he's some kind of monster. Escanor says that Zeldris is searching for a beating by him, like his brothers, and that the time has finally come. Zeldris says that Meliodas did not fight seriously because of the habit of underestimating his opponents that he developed due to being too strong. Zeldris declares that he's not like that and that he always uses his full power no matter who he faces. Escanor considers it a joke and attacks him with Rhitta. However, the ominous nebula manages to repel his attack, but only causes Escanor a few scrapes on his arm. Seeing a tiny nick on Rhitta, Escanor drops his weapon. Zeldris says he was doing it to beg for his life, but he doesn't seem to be willing to do that. Escanor uses Divine Sword Escanor, colliding with the ominous nebula that's unable to repel it. Zeldris asks why a human takes such a risk in a fight between demons and goddesses, to which Escanor says that he does everything for the sake of his friends. Zeldris denies that Escanor can call Meliodas his friend, stating that he has no place for those boring feelings, and there increases the power of the ominous nebula, managing to push back Escanor. However, the power of Escanor ends up being superior, breaking his ominous nebula and forcing Zeldris to intercept him with his sword. Zeldris is forced to retreat, however Escanor denies to let him flee and attacks him with the divine spear Escanor, piercing his chest with his finger and leaving him very wounded. As Escanor prepares to finish him off, Chandler manages to create an artificial knight and Escanor is returned instantly to his knight form. When Ludocele manages to hurt Zeldris, he takes the heat in a fight with Cusack. There, Chandler decides to take charge of himself, of Merlin, and the others. Escanor asks Merlin if Chandler and Cusack are as strong as they say, leading Merlin to tell that both, with the older demons alive, are owners of a terrible power and the teachers of Meliodas and Zeldris who were always with them. However, both rarely participated in the Old Holy War, leaving much of themselves in mystery. As Chandler and Merlin decide to start their battle, Merlin fires her Exterminate Ray, to which Chandler responds with the same spell. However, Escanor is astonished as Chandler's Exterminate Ray is much larger and more powerful than Merlin's. As the two attacks collide, Merlin tells Escanor to look for the opportunity to take Rhitta, although he was too afraid to do so. When Chandler's Exterminate Ray begins to take the upper hand, Merlin uses Enchant Infinity so that her attack grows with infinite magical power, surpassing Chandler and achieving a hit on him. Escanor praises Merlin's Infinity, stating that even the high-ranking demons are powerless before it. Escanor tries to take the opportunity to take Rhitta, but is hit by Ludocele being pushed back by Cusack. Merlin says that Chandler and Cusack sealed their original magical powers for some reason, but even so, they continue to be considered the most powerful demons after the Demon King just for being strong, fast, and hard as anyone else. Escanor asks if they have no weaknesses, Merlin agreeing that they do not. However, Merlin says that it's only necessary to create some. Seeing how Merlin manages to hurt Chandler and Cusack with an extremely complex magical combination, Escanor asks him when she thought of such a plan, getting surprised when she says that it was while teleporting to escape Zeldris' ominous nebula. When Escanor worries about Merlin suffering the effects of Gother's forbidden spell breaking, she tells him to take the opportunity to take Rhitta. Escanor asks himself what's going on with Merlin and Ludocele suffering so much. Thanks to Rhitta's stored energy, Escanor resumes his daily form, which relieves Merlin. When Merlin explains about the spell that her former master used 3,000 years ago, she quickly deduced how he used dark magic to alter all of the memories about Mael of the 4 Archangels and turn into Estarossa of the 10 Commandments. Even for the Demon King, Escanor gets very surprised for the revelation. Seeing no other way to defeat the likes of Merlin and Escanor, and after saying goodbye to their respective disciples, Cusack and Chandler decide to combine into a single entity known as the Original Demon, the original form from which both demons was divided after trying to dethrone the Demon King. Escanor protects Merlin from the liberation of power of both demons merging, which manages to dissipate the sphere of darkness created by Meliodas and the Commandments. When the original demon takes over, Escanor is besieged by his presence. The original demons start a fierce fight against Escanor, when one receives a big slash in his chest after their clash. The original demon points that it's a pity that Escanor is no longer on his top. Escanor then uses his cruel sun, engulfing the original demon. Merlin claims that the only thing they can do is survive until the arrival of the reinforcements. Escanor insists that the two of them are enough to deal with it, but the original demon emerges, having blocked the attack with a shield, claiming that their deaths are already decided. Merlin then attacks him with Exterminate Ray, but the original demon easily counters it with his energy breath, and then gives Escanor serious damage with a kick of his back legs. However, before he can finish Escanor, an enormous flying object comes to the scene, revealing to be Chastafol that deals a huge hit on the original demon. Escanor asks for King's location, and Merlin recognizes that King must be controlling Chastafol Chastafal from far away, indicating that his true power as Fairy King must have awakened and has an incredible evolution. As Chastafal assumes its fourth form, Merlin teleports herself and Escanor away, avoiding the terrible explosion that's released on the original demon. Escanor calls King cocky for showing his power like that. As Zeldris is able to use God to cancel Chastafal's attack on the original demon, this one resumes his fight with Escanor and Merlin while Zeldris deals with Chastafal. There, the Four Commandments appear and join Melascula from Merlin to be absorbed by Meliodas. However, Merlin refuses to give up and prepares to use Chronocoffin, which both Zeldris and the original demon recognize with disbelief as the forbidden art capable of suspending time. The two are prepared to take down Merlin before she completes the spell and leaves the cocoon suspended in time. However, the original demon is intercepted by Escanor, who's preparing to protect Merlin. However, Escanor lacks the power to stand up against him and is completely overcome by the original demon, who brutally wounds him. The original demon finally uses Death Drive to give it the final blow, sending him flying away a great distance. Escanor loses Rhitta in the process, returning to his night form. Escanor begins to blame himself, stating how ridiculous it was for someone like him to think of protecting others. Even so, he begs for someone to protect Merlin. There, Escanor is caught by Mael, who claims that the reunion is maybe the guidance of the sun. Escanor recognizes him as Esterosa, but quickly understands that he's Mael. Upon seeing his fellow Sins who are concerned to see the seriousness of his injuries, Escanor apologizes for being such a disgrace and ashamed. After Elizabeth heals him, Escanor says that they're flying in the right moment to find and catch him, to which Mael says that it's because King has been watching the entire time, surprising Escanor with his new appearance. Remembering the situation in Camelot, Escanor tells Mael that he heard from his brother that sunshine was originally his grace, and that he was willing to give it back if he helps them. Mael accepts and helps them, but rejects the grace, affirming that he's no longer worthy of it after having been consumed by the darkness, taking it away until he chose Escanor as his new owner after waiting so long. Escanor insists that his body can no longer resist the grace, but that they cannot defeat the demons without it. As Mael continues to deny, Escanor offers to lend it instead, asking Mael to save those precious to him. Upon reaching Camelot, Escanor goes along to Merlin to shield her until she's completed the Chronocoffin, to which Merlin says that she needs 5 minutes to complete it and suspend Meliodas' cocoon in time. When Zeldris starts to attack under desperation to stop Merlin, Escanor and the others try to defend her until King uses True Pollen Garden to protect everyone. After Zeldris is defeated by Mael and the Chronocoffin is completed, Escanor celebrates with his friends the end of the Holy War. He worries for Merlin when this one is debilitated for using the Chronocoffin, but is relieved when she says that she'll be fine, and makes Meliodas give them plenty of booze later. However, when Hawk discovers that the cocoon was already empty, Escanor, along with everyone, is abrumated by the incredible darkness coming from Meliodas' turned Demon King. However, Meliodas is revealed to have been turned into his father's vessel, revealing that it was the Demon King's plan from the beginning in creating the commandments and making Meliodas absorb them to take his young and stronger body for himself. As the Demon King pretends to kill Elizabeth, Gother takes her out of his attack for Merlin to use Perfect Cube to protect the three along with Hendrickson and Escanor. Mael, Diane, and King try to defeat the Demon King, but none of them are able to be a threat for him, who easily incapacitates everyone including Escanor. When Bond saves Hawk from being killed, Escanor shows how happy he is knowing that he was able to return from the Purgatory. As the Demon King releases a toxic and caustic storm over the area, Elizabeth and the Sins are protected by King's True Pollen Garden. As Bond is still outside, Escanor says that he'll be fine, but Gother says that any living being must resist the storm. Bond, however, was able to. After the storm is stopped by Bond and this one fights the Demon King, Escanor is surprised when the Demon King gets hurt by his attacks, since in fact, Meliodas was also fighting the Demon King from inside. When the Demon King manages to take the upper hand, Escanor tries to cheer Meliodas. There, Gother comes out with a plan and manages to use his invasion and take Elizabeth and the other Sins into the spiritual world where Meliodas confronts the Demon King. Escanor is happy as he and his friends meet with the real Meliodas. Escanor and the others are protected from the Demon King, both by Meliodas in the spiritual world and by Ludocil in the real world. As Meliodas gains new strength from his friends and is able to overpower the Demon King, he asks them to go back and help Bond. Escanor states that even if he's completely useless during the night, he will put his life in danger for him. When Merlin mentions a little promise that she and Meliodas did in his past, Escanor is confused about it. As they return to the real world, Merlin recognizes that the Demon King is in a desperate death throw, pretending to take Meliodas with him in his demise. Merlin states that they must get rid of the Demon King from Meliodas' body right now. Bond manages to intercept and stop his death throes, and then send him flying back with a kick. Escanor sustains Merlin to let her combine her technique with Elizabeth and King in their combined technique, Triple Prison, leaving the Demon King trapped. The Demon King, however, manages to break free in a berserk state. There, Deanne surprises him with his diamond tower, leaving Bond to give the Demon King the final blow. With a strong fist that sends the Demon King to break the diamond, this is what finally defeats and erases him from Meliodas' body. Escanor goes on to happily celebrate that Meliodas and Bond defeated the Demon King, but everyone else is saddened. King and Deanne remind him that with the destruction of the Demon King, they have missed the opportunity to break Elizabeth's curse. She tells them that this is already done, that what she most wanted was for Meliodas to be the same since she would never see him again if he became the Demon King. Elizabeth says she can always reincarnate if she dies, but Merlin asks if she really was okay with that. There, Meliodas surprises everyone by claiming that he acquired the power to break the curse while escaping from purgatory. Despite the dissonance of this and Bond, Merlin uses her curse discovery for the curses of Meliodas and Elizabeth to take physical form. There, Meliodas assumes the appearance he had when he was Demon King, and tells Elizabeth that despite having made her wait 3,000 years, he will finally fulfill the promise he made her. Meliodas easily destroys the two curses, and with that, Elizabeth embraces him with joy since his long journey has ended. But then, suddenly, it's rectified, and that their trip together has only just begun. Demon King Arc. With the end of the Holy War, the Sins return to Leonis, and that night all attend the celebration on the new boar hat. There, Escanor is seen serving food with Elizabeth and cleaning the floor along with Hawk. The day after the end of the Holy War, Escanor joins Elizabeth and the rest of the Sins in the boar hat with their journey to stock up across Britannia. As they make up a picnic, the women wait while the men go for food in the forest. Escanor is chased by a giant bull, recriminating Gother, who doesn't congratulate his ability to run and help him. Hawk tries to save him but ends up in the same situation, forcing Gother to save both. Escanor then accompanies his companions to urinate together, recriminating Hawk for washing his feet. When Meliodas says they must return, Escanor worries about Meliodas keeping a secret. Bond tells Meliodas that they're not as fragile as he believes, prompting him to reveal the truth that he will soon disappear from this world, something that everyone was already beginning to suspect. While their trip is resumed, Elizabeth worries that everyone is quiet and depressed. Meliodas insinuates her, saying that they're just tired because they haven't gone out to restock in a long time. Elizabeth sets him aside, claiming that the conversations they had took away the urge to speak. Upon returning to Leonis, Escanor goes with their friends to a meeting organized by King Baltra. There, he asks Meliodas to marry Elizabeth and become the king. Baltra ensures that Elizabeth will have no objection, but she says she cannot accept. Everyone is stunned when Elizabeth reveals that she plans to go to the demon realm with Meliodas. The Sins meet in the boar hat discussing what happened. Escanor expresses the surprising thing that a princess thinks of something like that, to which Meliodas agrees with Merlin that Elizabeth was always that determined, even when she presented him with Sigma 3,000 years ago. Gother asks him if he has no regrets in that world. Meliodas says that he would have liked to see his son having a scruffle with Bonds, but he also has a mountain of regrets. Since even though the war was stopped for the time being, the hatred between the Demon Clan and the other races has not completely disappeared. Not to mention those lost during the war, including Arthur, whom Meliodas claims to have been a magnificent king. Meliodas laments for only having worried the last millennia to break the curses and have left his only little brother to die twice, stating that he deserves to be in hell for all this. The Sins deny that by claiming that he's a good person. Meliodas thanks them, affirming that he is who he is today thanks to the fact that the 6 of them were always there for him. There, Meliodas declares the 7 deadly sins officially disbanded. The next day, Elizabeth and Meliodas have an emotional farewell at the entrance of the demon realm. However, before being able to cross the entrance, a gigantic rock is detached from a nearby boulder and falls over Elizabeth, seemingly crushing her to death. Everyone, especially Meliodas, cannot help but look with horror that the curse was not broken after all. However, Elizabeth is saved in the last minute by Merlin, who teleported her to safety just in time. Merlin then uses curse discovery to reveal that Elizabeth's curse was restored. Meliodas tries to destroy it once more, but as soon as he does, the curse regenerates again. Escanor asks why only Elizabeth's curse is restored. Meliodas concludes that this is because as the curse was put by the Demon King, it continues to exist because the Demon King is still alive. When everyone wonders how it can be given that the commandments have no vessel, Elizabeth and Meliodas conclude that Zeldris, the only one besides Meliodas capable of resisting the commandments, has become the vessel of the Demon King. Elizabeth and the Sins return to the boar hat to discuss the situation of the Demon King still alive. There, everyone feels the entrance of the demon realm being opened again to call in Endura. King asks Hawk and Escanor to report the situation to the king and the Great Holy Knight. After delivering the message, Hawk runs out to tell someone else, leaving Escanor alone. There, Escanor begins to cough up blood. Looking at the sky and knowing that the world will be in danger again, Escanor asks Mael to grant him his power once more before it's too late. When a small Endura clone appears in Leonis and is about to kill a defeated Griamore, Hauser, and Gilthunder, Escanor appears and shields the three by taking the attack with his body and receiving a serious injury. Hauser recalls that King had told him that he lost his sunshine power, so he couldn't face the Endura clone in his state. However, Escanor affirms that even without his power, he just can't hide and shake in fear. Gilthunder worries for his injury, but Escanor says it's okay because he doesn't have much time left anyway. Escanor affirms that the old guard must protect the future of young people like them, even at the cost of his life. Escanor tries to attack the offspring Endura, only to be crossed by the shield and arm. When Gilthunder fails in his attack as well, Escanor returns to shield him when the Endura attacks him, affirming that his opponent is him, his shoulder being pierced by the tongue. When Hauser and Griamore ask themselves how they can stand up being so hurt, Escanor asks them if they ever received an honest-to-goodness attack from Meliodas. Escanor says that the pain is enough to kill you. Even when he was in his proud and strong form, he can't forget it, and that in comparison, what he suffers at that moment is like an insect bite. Escanor tells the three that he will be their shield and that he can discuss everything they want afterwards, but they must escape. Escanor is again launched to attack, but is assaulted by the offspring Endura and loses an arm. While the demon continues to cut him without compassion, Escanor thinks about the pathetic thing that must be seen then, and that everyone would laugh if they could see it. However, as he remembers his friends, Escanor realizes that none of them will laugh at him. As he's massacred, Escanor thinks about how, despite being so incredible, they accepted someone like him without power or saving grace as one of them, and how they treated equally his true self and his proud former self. When losing his other arm, Escanor thinks that his fellow sins are truly powerful and truly kind, and that having fought at his side is a great pride. Being the proof of it in his heart, Escanor wishes to be with them in his last moments, even only in heart. At the gates of death, Escanor claims his title while Endura tries to finish him off. While he was about to be killed, Mael appears and destroys the Endura while healing the fatal wounds of Escanor, as well as those of Hauser, Griamore, and Gilthunder. Escanor is very happy for his arrival, although Mael doesn't believe he can fulfill his expectations because he can assist him in saving people from the danger that is coming, but it's an impossible task to face the Demon King. Mael begins to explain that the Demon King is too powerful even for one of the 4 archangels, but Escanor interrupts him saying he misunderstood him and he didn't call him to fight, but to return sunshine to him. Mael tells Escanor that he must know his body better than anyone, to which Escanor says that regaining his power doesn't mean he could face the Demon King. Mael rectifies that his body is already at its absolute limit of carrying the grace, and that if he gives it again, even if he can fight again, he will definitely die after that. Mael tells him that he would be throwing his life for nothing, but Escanor says that he doesn't care, and that he doesn't throw it away for anything, but for the sake of the 7 deadly sins, and that for them deserves to risk his life. When shaking hands, Mael returns sunshine to Escanor and reminds him that he still has time before noon. Now in his daytime form, Escanor arrives to Lake Salisbury, where his fellow sins and Elizabeth are fighting the Demon King. He stops a lunge of the Demon King with his arm, then recites a poem about how he has decided to offer his life for his companions. Meliodas exclaims that he must stop because of what will happen if he stays that way. Distracted by this, Escanor receives a blow from the Demon King, who then tries to attack him with his sword, but Escanor goes through it with Divine Spear Escanor, stating that a blow as light as that is not even close to taking him down. The Demon King responds with Kamichigi, but Escanor overcomes him with Divine Sword Escanor, saying that killing a god is the only way the fire inside him will go out. Diane questions that claim, but Escanor only tells Meliodas to save his brother while he manages the situation, since he won't be able to continue in that world if he accidentally kills the Demon King. Escanor then begins to cough and languish, just when a Demon King, furious at his words, attacks him. Fortunately, Ban and King interfere to ward off the Demon King while Gother and Meliodas finally enter his soul. Escanor continues to fight with the Demon King alongside Ban and King, managing to take the upper hand. As their fight continues, the Demon King manages to engulf Ban, Escanor, and King in a fiery explosion that leaves them badly injured. When Elizabeth heals the three, the Demon King attacks Ban while distracted with Elizabeth, but Escanor tackles him and then King hits him with Chestafol while Ban with Kudachos. However, the Demon King manages to take no damage thanks to the unlimited magic provided by the lake. When Elizabeth's curse was about to kill her with lightning from the sky, Meliodas returns from the spirit world in time of full countering the lightning to the Demon King. Escanor is glad for his return, and everyone gets ready to show the Demon King the power of the 7 deadly sins. When Diane uses her mother creation against the Demon King, she throws all the rubble that manages to take the Demon King out of Lake Salisbury, thus cutting off his source of magic. After noticing that he's in a place he doesn't recognize, Meliodas says that it's his last resting place since the Sins are about to launch their mission to defeat him, now that without the lake he has lost his ability to recover magic. Escanor points out that he has even more bad news for him. It's high noon. Escanor becomes the One. The Demon King remembers seeing from Purgatory how he used that form to defeat Meliodas and Zeldris in a single minute, and then encourages him to attack him to take a taste of that power. The two then exchange a pair of powerful blows and then cross the same blows, releasing a large shockwave. The Demon King then deals some blows that manage to drag Escanor away, then asking him how he feels the power that surpasses that of his unsightly children. Escanor quickly surprises him by saying that he doesn't feel a scratch. The Demon King continues to hit Escanor, saying that his ignorant pride left him speechless, and that is why he will silence him. The Demon King proceeds to bury a blow to Escanor in the gut, but surprisingly, Escanor's power doesn't diminish despite having spent his time as the One. Turning his own life force into magical power, Escanor manages to maintain his the One form he calls the Ultimate, pretending to burn out his life to keep fighting. Maintaining his fierce battle with the Demon King, Escanor manages to engulf him in his power before suffering a wound in the stomach. The Demon King then breaks free and attacks Escanor with his darkness, but Meliodas vanishes his attack with Counter Vanish. Ban and King then attack him with Vanish and Kill and fight fire with fire, getting hurt and containing the Demon King. Escanor is enraged by saying that he doesn't need their help and intends to continue fighting alone. Meliodas faces him, saying that he should tell them the same. Escanor tells him to move, and Meliodas tells him that he will have to move it by force if he can. Meliodas states that he didn't invite him to the 7 deadly sins so that he would go and put something like that. Escanor then begins to narrate in past tense, saying that when he had no control of his power and only became berserk, Meliodas put his body on the line and defeated him in submission once and again until he managed to learn to control and master his power, and above all, Meliodas gave someone as lonely as him a place to belong. Escanor asks if he knows what kind of happiness that gave him. The Demon King is released, creating a great monster of darkness. Escanor jumps in to face him, claiming he did an oath that day and will keep it. That with the life he once wanted to leave, he goes to stake it for him and his friends, the 7 deadly sins. Meliodas also jumps in his assault mode, saying that if he's going to put his life on the line for them, then the only thing right for them to do is to do the same for him. The sins agree, telling Escanor that he hasn't been alone for a long time. Combining their techniques, the sins manage to destroy the monster of darkness. Escanor then tells everyone that it's too late to back out, so he will give everyone an order. Give him the honor of fighting at his side. Meliodas cries, saying they're a team until the bitter end. The sins together are able to take on the Demon King until his limit. There, with the Demon King practically defeated both in the spirit world and in the real world, the commandments begin to leave Zeldris' body until they completely detach from him, allowing Zeldris to recover his physical body. However, the Demon King's conscience refuses to leave his vessel, and goes and tries to retrieve it. However, Bond snatches Zeldris away before the commandments can possess him again. Enraged, the Demon King rises and say that they observe him. The commandments separate and disperse in the surrounding area, beginning to take over every living being, rock, and hill. Thus, the Demon King stands with a new, gigantic, and monstrous vessel created from the same land of Britannia. The Demon King says he can see the faces of the people in Britannia crumpled in fear, all thanks to the sinful follies that they have committed. However, the 7 deadly sins make a completely confident face. The Demon King demands to know why they have that expression on their face. And Escanor says that he committed the ultimate idiocy. As the sins launch their attack, the Demon King uses Death Zero to immobilize them with gravity pressure. He tells them they'll be slowly crushed out from existence as insects that have no chance against a mountain, but Escanor states that he has raised countless mountains bigger than him as breakfast. Escanor launches a cruel sun to the Demon King, but it's ineffective. The Demon King continues to add additional pressure in his technique, claiming that he will end the Holy War, having taken the life forms within that land as vessels. However, Merlin uses Limit Breaker, raising her and her companion's magic power to the absolute max, breaking the Death Zero in the process, but she warns her friends that all must have to rest for a week after that. Escanor launches his final prominence, along with the other sin's strongest techniques that Merlin combines into a single powerful attack using Power Conversion Unify. The Demon King believes that his power, the ruler, will protect him, but Merlin reveals that the killer switch that Gother has used was not an attack, but a spell that negates his power. The Demon King tries to destroy the combined attack with Death Zero, but the attack proves to be too powerful, as Gotha remarks that he's not able to overcome the resolve within their hearts. Meliodas creates various clones that repeatedly use full counter in the combined attack, sending it back at the Demon King, multiplying its power each time, just like Fox McCloud whenever he reflects an attack. The Demon King cries that if the attack hits him again, Britannia will be damaged. However, with Merlin's approval, Meliodas sends the attack to the Demon King, killing him once and for all. In the resultant destruction, King uses True Pollen Garden to protect the rest of the Sins. Then, he and the Sins fall out of exhaustion as a result of Merlin's power Limit Breaker. Mael and Elizabeth heal them. Deanne then calls for Meliodas to show that the commandments are still there. Merlin explains that despite defeating the Demon King, his power could revive after decades or centuries. Deanne says that centuries fly by in no time, to which King agrees, but Bon not. Meliodas then unleashes his true magical power to destroy the commandments, causing something to resonate between the two Demon Kings that affect the area. While everyone watches Zeldris and Gelda flying away, Escanor says it's time to do the same because everyone is waiting for them. Sad, they say they must all return together, showing that everyone has already seen that Escanor is about to die, since his body is burned to the point that it disintegrates and can no longer move. Escanor says he has no regrets in life, and thanks everyone for allowing themselves to meet him. He gives each person a few last words. He tells Gowther that he was the best confidant he could have, wishes Deanne and King happiness despite not being able to attend their wedding, asks Elizabeth to give his regards to the King and the rest in the Leonis, thanks Mael for everything he did for him until the end, recommends Bon to loosen up with the drinking, and finally tells Meliodas that he owes him all his life and that he is a true friend who has no equal. Finally, Escanor confesses to Merlin that he always loved her. Not only for reminding him of Rosa, but because she looked at him, spoke, and connected with him without any prejudice or discrimination. Merlin says he gives her too much credit because in the end, she only found him fascinating and only saw him as a test subject. However, Escanor states that is more than enough to be happy, because it means that he could exist in some corner of her heart. Affected, Merlin says it's too late for everything and that she wishes Escanor had met her 3,000 years ago. Escanor tells her that he will be with her no matter what decision she made, what crime she committed, or sins charged. Surprised, Merlin asks if he knows about her sin. Escanor admits that it's just a feeling because she has always had that sad look in her eyes since they met. Escanor's body begins to burn and warns everyone that they should walk away, but everyone wants to see him leave. Merlin then approaches and, to everyone's surprise, kisses Escanor, burning herself in the process. Merlin tells him that she will never be able to reciprocate his feelings for her, but that as proof of his existence, she will keep those burns as a symbol of the only man who has loved her. Escanor recites his last words in the form of a poem. His body then disintegrates. Did you enjoy our video? God, that's so sad. Be sure to check out these other great videos from the Amagi, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. Thank you for watching. Adrian out. I'm gonna go cry now.